You and I have something in common. We think that all reptiles are really cool, but what if I had to ask you, what are your 5 favorite species of reptiles? Well, today, I'm going to tell you all about mine. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 coolest species of reptiles that you could keep in the whole reptile hobby. I'm Adam, this is Zapdos, you're watching Wicked's Wicked Reptiles, stick around. Zapdos is one of the more curious ball pythons that I have, and we're not going to talk about individuals, who's my favorite pet reptile that I have in my collection, but we are going to talk about the 5 species that I enjoy keeping the most, and I've actually kept all these species, so let's just get right into it. Let's start off with number 5. My 5th favorite reptile to keep is actually a tie. We're going to go jeweled Lacertas and Sudan plated lizards, so it's kind of a 2-for-1 here, and the reason I can't pick between the two, although they look different, they come from different parts of the world, they're actually very similar and I like the same things about them. Number 1, they're pretty easy to keep, so they don't take a ton of maintenance for how cool they are. Something like a sailfin dragon is amazing, but it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of space, a lot of experience, and it's just a lot easier to keep a, Sudan plated lizard or a jeweled Lacerta in comparison to something that's, I don't know, big and exotic like that. Now I should mention that neither of the individuals that I have are handleable. I mean, I guess they're kind of handleable, but Bob, my jeweled Lacerta, will try to bite you. He thinks that everything is food, so it's not a defensive thing. And then my Sudan plated lizard, she'll tail whip you. She's just not super confident about being held, which is kind of normal for Sudan plated lizards. So I kind of knew that going in. She doesn't bite me. I can go in and grab her if I want to. I just kind of leave her alone not to stress her out too much. And she seems pretty comfortable. She's out basking all the time. So that's the thing that I like about them too. They're both diurnal, right? Where someone like Zapdos, which is a ball python, by the way, which we may or may not get to, stick around. He's not going to be out during the day as much as someone like a Bob or an Attila. And the reason is he hunts at night, where these two lizards are diurnal. So if you're the type of person who is awake all day and is at home and can view your lizards, maybe these guys are right for you. But that is one of the reasons why I like them. Because you can see them, they're out basking. They're very inquisitive as well. When I walk in the room, they both kind of come up to the glass. Hey buddy, what are you doing? That type of thing. Do you have food is probably what they're thinking, to be honest. But they're not shy. They don't run away too much. If you get too close, maybe. But overall, they're pretty cool. They're calm, they're collected, and they're very interesting. What are you doing? Either jeweled Lacertas or Sudan plated lizards will try to wrap themselves around your chair and give you a hassle when you try to get them off, though, will they? Zapdos. And lastly, although they do need UVB, the heat, humidity, and lighting to provide for these guys is pretty simple. You don't need crazy, temperatures like a Savannah monitor or Euromastix. Humidity doesn't have to be crazy high like a rainbow boa. They're kind of in this happy medium, which is why I am able to keep my jeweled Lacerta outside for the summer, which I've done for the past 4 years with great success. He puts on weight every year. It's a fantastic species to have if you live in an area like Southern Ontario and you want to keep something outside. Jeweled Lacertas are a go-to for that. Number 4 is another animal that I've got in my collection. Number 4, hognose snakes. Yeah, you guys saw this coming. I love hognose snakes. I do a ton of videos about them. I can't say enough really good things about these tiny little colubrids. And when I say tiny, I kind of mean it, because males are only going to get 45 to maybe 150 grams if they're gigantic. It is a pretty big range, but they can breed pretty low, right? 45-ish grams, something like that. Some people will say 35, some people say 55 or 75. But either way, they don't get huge. Females, if you can get a 400-gram female, you got a big snake. And she's only going to get to like 3 feet or something like that. So it's going to be pretty darn small compared to a Zapdos, who's probably about 900, 1,000 grams, something like that. And he's not even one of the big boys, right? He's going to be, well, he's about 3.5 feet, but he may grow a little bit more. And he wasn't power fed. I know that when I got him. This was actually a rescue snake. So he's definitely not going to be a 6-foot beast or a 7-foot beast, but he's going to be a lot bigger than, say, someone like Ekans or Arbok, or even the babies that we have, Onyx and Rhyhorn. So it really depends what you want out of an animal, and for me, I wanted something that stayed kind of small, has these really cool keeled scales, which is kind of difficult to find on certain species of colubrid, and definitely constrictor species. You don't find them all that often. And of course, they've got that shovel face, which I love. I love their little face. That's one of the things that kind of turned me onto them in the first place. The other thing too, I don't like getting bit by snakes. And with hognose snakes, they'd only bite you when they think you're food most of the time. Now, any snake can bite you out of defense, okay? But for the most part, you won't have that happen to you too much with a hognose. Generally, they're going to think you're food, and that's why you're going to get bit by them, but it's pretty unlikely to get bit by a hognose in the first place. But the reason that they're not higher on the list, or one of the reasons, and I don't mean to fearmonger, they do have a type of venom. It's a very low potency, not considered to be critically endangering or harming or whatever this phrase is up here that I can't remember to say. These guys aren't going to kill you. I still think it's okay for you to let a child hold a hognose as long as you're watching them and supervising them, which you should with any animal anyway. I don't think this is like a beast, but there is that extra consideration, and they will hold on to, and it's hard to get them off if they do decide to think that you're food, which is kind of with any snake. But either way, I love hognose snakes, and we're going to move on. Number 3. Bearded dragons. This is the only animal I don't currently have in my collection. And the reason I don't have them anymore, well, I had two. My first reptile ever was a bearded dragon named Jackson, and then I got one named Taz immediately after that. And now I've got a snake trying to get away on my chair. One second. And I had him for a good long time. You know, Jackson lived until he was 12, and Taz lived until she was 10. So they died very similar ages, which is right at the, you know, kind of middle of where they're supposed to be in the first place. I got them as rescues. They kind of had some issues when I got them. But they lived a very happy and healthy life, and I really enjoyed having bearded dragons. But here's why I'll probably not get another one anytime soon. They eat a lot, their diet is varied, which I usually like, but these guys eat almost every day. And just the mixture of what they do eat with the insects, and also the plants that they're going to eat, it just, their poop smells so bad, and they poop so much. Usually when you eat a lot, you poop a lot. That's how animals usually work. And with bearded dragons, they eat a lot and they poop a lot. But enough of the negative Nancy stuff. Here's why they're awesome. They've got a very cool texture, right? And I love the way that they feel in your hand. They've got this weird, like, kind of spiky thing going on around their jaw and down, like, their body, the sides of their body. They've got these really cool tails which can kind of, like, curl up and stick up as they run, or they're just kind of alert. They do this head bobbing thing if they're males, if they're trying to intimidate, or when they're breeding. Females will wave. To me, they just have these nuances, these characteristics that you can't find with a lot of other animals, a lot of other reptiles, and I think bearded dragons are one of my favorite that you could possibly keep. They are, for sure, one of the best reptiles, but not a beginner reptile. And if you want to know why, intermediate lizard, video list up there, you can check that out. Number 2, blue-tongued skinks. I love blue-tongued skinks, and I think it really comes down to when I was a kid. They were my first love. I think after Land Before Time, when I first realized that, well, you can't have a dinosaur, but you could have a reptile, I saw Steve Irwin on a late-night show, and he had blue-tongued skink, and my blue-tongued skink's name is Irwin, so it's kind of apropos. I love this guy. He's really cool to watch. He's not super fond of being handled, but it's not dangerous to hold him. You can, you know, pick him up. He tolerates it. And there are blue-tongued skinks that will tolerate being handled a lot better than Irwin if you start them when they're young. But I didn't have that opportunity. I got him only about 6 months ago. Since, I've absolutely loved having him. He's really cool to watch. He's got this really cool varied diet. He can even eat premium dog food or premium cat food. This is not a staple, by the way. It's just they can also eat that, which you wouldn't feed to something like, I don't know, a leopard gecko. This is really cool to me that their diet is so varied. So you're going to want to have a bunch of plants, and you're going to have some protein items, and you're going to want this guide right here, which is the complete care guide, because I'm not going to get too far into it. But some of the really cool things is they're big and robust, and they've got this really cool looking set of legs, which are kind of, you know, very small. They have the tiniest getaway sticks of any lizard that I can really, well, I mean, there's legless lizards, Adam, for crying out loud. Stupid thing to say. But I think that they kind of look like these sausages with legs, and they kind of scurry, and I don't know, to me, they are adorable. They kind of look derpy, but not in a stupid way. I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but for me, I think everyone has something that they gravitate towards. Why is your favorite animal giraffe when the next guy's is an elephant? I think it's just something that you gravitate towards, and for me, that is one of my favorite reptiles that you could possibly keep. Another couple things too, they're not super messy. I mean, they do poop and they do eat, not a ton, more than say a Zapdos would, but they don't make a super big mess. It doesn't seem to stink as much as bearded dragons. They're also pretty easy to keep. Now this depends where they are, right? If you're getting a Indonesian species or if you're gonna get an Australian species, like a northern, they're gonna have different care requirements, especially with humidity. I've got an Indonesian, so he needs a little bit more humidity than a northern would, which is pretty easy for me to facilitate. Just spray it down. I keep him in a PVC, which holds humidity very well. There is a few options that you can do. You can get a misting system, things like that. So it just depends where you live. And just with the bearded dragons also, that's another consideration if you're using this video like, well, if this guy likes it, I'll like it too. If you live in southern Florida and you want to get a bearded dragon, you might need a fan. I remember, I live in southern Ontario, right? So it's very warm and very, very humid here in the summer months, which means I needed a fan in order to make Jackson and Taz's homes acceptable, because they're going to be around 30% humidity, very low. Where with Irwin, I'm going to need it rated between 60 and 70, depending on what care sheet you read, right? But I keep it right around 60, and then one of the sides with the hide, one of the hides is around 70. It might get as low as say like 50 or 45, but he's always got a place to go where it's correct for an Indonesian blue-tongued skink. And with a bearded dragon, it's going to need to be lower than your house most of the time. Why are we doing a direct comparison? Like, can I ever stay on track, like what I'm talking about? Blue-tongued skinks also are adorable and like, okay, number one. I know what you think I'm going to say. You think I'm going to say leopard geckos, but I'm not, and they're not even on the list. I do love them. They're an honorable mention, let's say, but to me, they're just, safe. They're easy. I'm pretty cool with Zapdos or like Pikachu just being around my neck and chilling. I don't think that I'm gonna have to do too much to keep them there, but as you saw earlier in the video, I had to kind of wrangle them, and I never have that issue with leopard geckos, which is why I have them on my shoulder for almost every video. They're fantastic. They're the honorable mention. Super easy. Number 1 or number 2 best reptile for a beginner in my opinion. But ball pythons are number 1. And here's why. I mean, look at this, right? Look at it. And I'm going to show you, here is a ball python. Here's a ball python. Here's a ball python. Here's a ball python. They're all in my collection. They all look different. And to me, that's what's amazing about ball pythons. Well, before we get into the morph portion, which is kind of something that a lot of people gravitate towards ball pythons for, they're easy to keep. Yeah, they've got this humidity thing that you're gonna need, and it's a little bit harder to keep than, say, a hognose or even a corn snake, and they do get bigger and so on and so forth. They're more expensive to feed. I agree with all that. But they're more robust. With a hognose snake, I don't feel like I'm gonna break it, but I wouldn't just hand it to a child, not only because of the rear fang venom thing, but also because they're delicate. They're, and then a corn snake is squirmy, and with a ball python, most of the time, like, he was squirmy at the beginning, but also he was trying to wedge himself in between the wall of his enclosure and the UVB light. Seriously. So he's really warm, and he was like really active, but now he's kind of cooled down a bit. In this room, it's about, I don't know, 78 or so. It's pretty warm. I got the lights on and the computer and everything. So he's just kind of chilling out, but you're not going to get that with a lot of other snakes. And to me, that's what I like. I can turn around and sit on my computer and edit this video, and he won't move. And if he does, I can catch him. He's not going to be crazy. Also, they're pretty predictable, right? I love my boa constrictor Franny, but you never see her in videos because I got to watch her all the time. I don't think she's going to bite me, but she is unpredictable in comparison to my ball python. Now, I'm not going to say all boas are unpredictable. That is ridiculous. I'm just saying in my collection, and that's what the video is about. What are my favorite? And I'm telling you why. Ball pythons are the easiest to keep, in my opinion, that also have the ability to be easy to care for and easy to hold on to, big and robust. They're pretty good feeders. They do go on this hunger strike thing, I agree, but there are ways, which you can watch right here, how to get them to eat. Breeding them is really cool and a little bit easier than some of the other species that you might want to get into, and I like the size. It's not super impressive, but it is impressive enough that if you pull this out to someone who doesn't know anything about snakes, they're going to think it's awesome. And the morphs. Banana ball python. One of my bucket list python species, or not species, but morphs to get, just because I think they're cool, and I think he might have an Enchi in him or something. He was a rescue, so I'm not exactly sure. But then Pikachu is an albino, but if you hold the gene for albino and you don't show it, then you look like Medusa. But that's the thing, it's so different, and you can have a million different colors to choose from, black or white or whatever. So to me, ball pythons are my favorite. I rambled like a lot in this one, like 100%. I rambled so much. So that's it. Those are my favorite reptiles in my collection, or the ones that I've had in my collection previously. What are your favorite? Put it in the comments section below, and also while you're down there, tell me what to talk about next week. This video was something that I read in the comments section. Someone said make this video, so I did. That's where I get all the ideas. And if you haven't already, bam, smash that subscribe button, hit the like button. I'd appreciate that. And because I do videos twice a week, that means that I'll see you on Thursday.